your boy young I give him that time. Pancho leg stand and punchy America. Banyi doll, pancho leg stand and punchy America. Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankaro water no watching. Oga level leg, gear, wow, leg. Panda with ya, punchy America. Panya doll, no, chingatongo pandon, could you ever buy a check out? Patu panda gear, what ya be doll venting. Stand and punchy America, Banyi doll, pancho leg stand and punchy America, Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankaro water no watching, Oga level leg, gear, wow, leg, Panda with ya, punchy America, Panya doll, no, chingatongo pandon, could you ever buy a check out, Patu panda gear, what ya be doll venting.
Welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries across the globe, wherever you are tuning in, South Sudan, Africa, Western world, and Eastern part of the world. You are all welcome to Lagos State Media on this day, 15th of August, 2022. And in the studio with us is our guest and our usual guest. This is not his first time. He has been with us almost more than 3 times. Mr. Patrick Oyet, the President of Union of Journalists, South Sudan. Mr. Patrick, you are highly welcome once again to Lagos State Media. And as we are going to discuss many issues pertaining your leadership or the people that you are leading, the journalist fraternity, in regard to the situations in our country, and also in our neighboring states, alongside the law that protects journalists in our country. To our viewers, I welcome you all and remind you once again, you can share this live show on your wall so that your friends may be in a position to listen to the answers being provided by our guest, Patrick Oyet, who is now in the studio. And on the same note, we have had numerous things that are happening in our country, and the detentions of journalists, harassments, and even some of them being assaulted physically. So we will address those things, and the President of Journalists is here to talk to us and brief us on those aspects. Mr. Patrick, you're highly welcome, and give us your opening remark before we move to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Majok, and Lagos State Media as a whole for having me. And as you said, I'm not new here. You've always been having me whenever there are issues, which is something we really appreciate as UJOSS. And just to talk a bit about the biggest issue concerning journalists now is, of course, the issue of our colleague, Ding Magot, who has been in detention, but today, on 15th of August, she was released. So this is what we've been running up and down about this morning, and finally she's out of police custody. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. It's a good news that one of your colleagues, especially Ding Magot, who was arrested last week because he was, I don't know what the cause was, but you will narrate to the public and to South Sudanese to understand, because sometimes Facebook information, some of them are not accurate, and they are always subject for further analysis. And you are here to tell us what transpired on that day and what prompted security apparatus to arrest and detain Ding Magot, and also some of the protesters which were protesting in Konyo on that very day. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Patrick. Tell us.
Yeah, what happened on that day, Sunday, which is a week and 1 day before today, is that, of course, there were a group of people who went to protest, and they say they were protesting because of high prices of goods in the market, because prices have been rising in South Sudan almost on a daily basis, especially when the local currency, South Sudanese pounds, lose value against the dollar. You go to a petrol station today, you may buy fuel at 700. In the next morning, it is maybe 800 or 900. It has been going like that. And that corresponds to prices of other goods also in the market. Salt, sugar, and basic goods prices have been going up. So there were a group of people who went out protesting, asking the government to do something about this continuous rise of price, saying they were not able now to afford basic commodities. And this journalist, Ding Magot, happened to hear about this, that this protest was happening. And she wanted the story out of it. And she actually found out that there were some students who were part of the protest, students of University of Juba. So she went and interviewed these students. She interviewed these students about the reason as to why they joined the protests and what they wanted to achieve and so forth, which her intention was to use it for news. She said when she finished interviewing, as she left, she crossed the road going towards Nyakron Cultural Center. Then some security officers who were not wearing actually uniform just approached her and got her and put her in a car and took her to Buluk police station. That was Sunday. She spent the night in Buluk police. And then on Monday morning is when she was transferred to Melekia police station. And for us as UJOSS, we got information in the morning on Monday that Ding was missing. And we have a group where the executive members of UJOSS are in. So we posted the information in the group around 6:30 in the morning that we have information that Ding Magot left home since Sunday and she was nowhere. So could we try to find out where she could be found? And our members started checking around. By around 9, we were told she was found in Melekia police station. And then we sent, we have a protection officer. We sent him, we said, go ahead and we'll follow you. Go and get preliminary information that you have about this case. And he went. Our Secretary General also followed him. And by that time, other lawyers were also called, including ours. And they were all willing and very supportive. They went to the police station. And when they started inquiring about the case, they found that by that time there was no case open. Ding was there, and other people who were arrested from Konyo who were protesting were also brought, and they were just put in the cell, and there was no case. We also started making some contacts with politicians, ministers, and so forth to try to put some pressure so that she's released. And unfortunately, also on that very day, our colleague who was one of our colleagues from SSBC, who unfortunately passed on, was the day for the prayer. So there was some contribution that we made as journalists. I went that side to take that contribution. And on my way, I also went to, because we discovered that Philip Anyang was our main lawyer was not in town, he was in Bor. So when I was receiving a lot of calls from the police station, they needed me to write some letters to ministers and so forth. Then I was telling them, no, I was not in the office. I was at SSBC for the issue of the funeral prayer. So on my way back, I went to the law firm and came with another lawyer. Then I found that if there was also a lawyer from that law firm, David Ayuel, who was already there. So I told him, I said, Molana, now since your colleague is here, there is no need, you go back. So he went back to his workstation. So we found a number of lawyers, some from the Bar Association and some from other law firms. They were there ready to help us. Also, Philip Anyang had sent also another lawyer to come. So there was a team of lawyers on the case. So they started asking again and again, why this case has not been registered. And then by around 3 p.m. is when investigation started. They started investigating Ding. And the investigation went on until almost 5. So when they finished with her, we thought that the bail letter was prepared. We wanted immediately, they finished with our investigation. They open a case, we file a bail application. Then they said, no, you cannot file a bail application because Ding was not brought here alone. She was brought with the rest of the people. So yes, we have heard from her, but we need to hear from the rest of the people before we can make any decision. So there was no way, we had to leave. And we went the next day. The next day, investigation continued. That is talking to the other people who arrested with Ding and so on and so on and so on. And when they finished again, it was almost 3 p.m. And then the lawyers filed a bail application. Immediately, the attorney who was there rejected the bail application. He said, no, we have not yet concluded the investigation, so you cannot apply for bail until we finish with everybody. And by around 3, 4, they, according to what we came to learn later, they contacted their senior attorney, who is a public prosecution attorney, and asked for more time, that they did not have enough time to carry out the investigation. They needed more time, and they needed Ding and their colleagues they arrested them with to be transferred to Juba Central Prison. So to our surprise, we saw a car come, and those of Ding were put in the car and taken to Juba Central Prison. Well, like, how do you take people to prison without even going to court? But there was a legal process that they had already done. So that Tuesday ended like that. And when they were taken to Juba Central Prison, no access was accepted. So we could not see her, we could not talk to her. The lawyers could not see her, could not talk to her. So it became very difficult. Then on Thursday, the lawyers now applied not for bail, but for access. First of all, to be able to see her and talk to her. So this access was granted on Thursday at around 1 p.m. Juba time. This is when the grant of access was there. We went to prison, we saw her, we saw also the rest of the people arrested with her. And again, the lawyers now started working on the issue of bail. Now that access has been granted, can we try bail? And the lawyers started working on the bail application. And that Thursday afternoon, a bail application was taken to a senior prosecution attorney. Now the senior prosecution attorney wanted the file where the case of those of Ding were, and the file was nowhere. The police were saying they were still doing more investigation. That is because as those of Ding were taken to prison, there was a group of people. There were 2 more people who were arrested after. So these people, all their cases were combined in one file. So the police could not release the file because they said they were still working on it. Friday until around 3:30, this is when the file was taken to the senior prosecutor, and those other 2 who were arrested were also taken out to prison. So the prosecutor said, yes, I have received the file now, but time has gone. There's nothing I can do now. I need to study the whole case before I make any decision. So for that reason, you come on Saturday. So on Saturday, the lawyers went, and the bail was granted. When the bail was granted, what now it meant was that since Ding and the rest of the people who were taken with her to Juba prison were in Juba prison on instruction of Melekia police station, this bail, the letter of bail had to be taken to Melekia police station. Melekia police station had to write a letter to Juba Central Prison to release those of Ding to Melekia. and then Melekia would be the one to release them. But being a weekend, being a Saturday, this was not possible. It was raining. The general in charge of Melekia police station did not report to work. We tried calling him, his phone was off. So there was no way. We stayed there until 5, no way out. We left. We were left with no option but to wait now today. So today morning, the lawyers went to Melekia police station plus our protection officer. That letter was worked on. It was sent to Juba Central Prison, where we were at Juba Central Prison. And then we got the Ding and the rest. We took them to Melekia police station. And we called also the parents to come. They came, and finally Ding was released. Bail was granted not only to Ding, but also to the rest of the people who are protesting. We left the rest of the people behind because what they needed were their next of kin or relatives to come with valid ID so that they would sign for them, but everything was finished. They were already granted their bail. So this is basically what happened.
Thank you so much, President Oyet Patrick, for your explanation in regard to the genesis that resulted into the detentions of one of your colleagues, who is our journalist, and some of the protesters. There is one thing here we need to know, Mr. Patrick Oyet. What were the charges these security apparatus levels against Dean, the journalist? Were they charging her simply because she was covering the event, or was it they were charging her simply because they assume that maybe she has joined the protesters? Which one was which? Thank you.
Yeah, the first assumption that the police had, and the question they were asking us was that how did Ding know about the protest? Meaning that they were saying that Ding was part of the protest. So this was the first assumption they had. And reason being that the time they arrested Ding did not have an ID on her. So it was only when we went to the police station that we said, she's a journalist. And as UJOSS, we have her in our database. If you want ID to just show that she's a journalist, we are able to produce it. But they said they did not want at that time. And they were carrying out their own investigation. If they wanted something, they would ask. So that was one. So they said since they did not get her with an ID, they assumed that she was part of the protesters. Now, when we clarified that she was a journalist who was doing her work and she had an audio recorder, they now said, okay, they were going to charge her under Section 82 of the South Sudan Penal Code Act, which is basically about carrying an article which could be used for criminal activity, you know. So that is the charge they actually put against her. And the issue was that whatever she recorded was in the audio recorder. And we also say that, okay, if you want, you can listen to what is there. And she did not even broadcast what she recorded. So basically, up to now, the case against her is Section 82 of the Penal Code of South Sudan, which is carrying article which could be used for criminal activities. Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, my brother Patrick Oyet, for people who are performing their duties to be victimized in such a manner, to the extent of combining journalists with the youth that have been frustrated by the economy of the country and other challenges surrounding around the hyperinflation in the market. Now we have had the case, and she did not even broadcast what she recorded or what she covered during the event. Was that record still in her gadget, or was it deleted by the security organ?
By the time they arrested her, it was in her recorder, and her recorder is still with the police. Her recorder and her phone are still with the police. So we believe that the recording is there. And this is now the process that we've started is to recover the recorder and the phone. So yes, the record is there and it is with the police.
Now, how do you see it as a president of journalists in South Sudan?
Yeah.
Do you think your relationship or the relationship of journalists with the government of South Sudan is that hostile? And if yes, who is the direct link government officials that can make you feel safe if you can push for your agenda through Council of Ministers, through Parliament, in order to protect journalists? Otherwise, your friends or your colleagues or you journalists are not the victims like other civilians across the country, be it Upper Nile region, Barakazal, and the entire Equatorial region. How do you see this relationship? And can you tell us more your relationship with the government of South Sudan? Thank you, President.
Yeah, we are actually having a challenge when it comes to the issue of our relationship with the government, because the case of Ding is not the first. We've had cases where in Parliament, journalists have been arrested. Sometimes they've been detained within Parliament and later released. We've had a number of cases also, sometimes with the national security. And because we have interacted with national security especially, and we do not have much problem with the army, by the way. The army, when it comes to issues of arrest of journalists, we've not had very many cases. But national security and is where we've had a lot of challenges. And because of those challenges, we interacted several times. And now we are at a point where we are understanding one another a bit. Now, police, we have not had problem with police before. We had some minor issues, but not very big. And this is one of the biggest cases that we are having with the police. And we want to engage them more to ensure that we come to an understanding. And by the way, one thing is that they have been cooperating. Even when Ding was in the cell, we've been going even to the Ministry of Interior. We've been talking to the legal advisor to the ministry, who has been giving us his legal opinion on what also we should do, because he said, yes, the case is with us, but the law is for everybody. The law is for everybody, and what you can do if the attorney at Melekia has rejected your bail, then the only thing you can do is to appeal. So he was also giving us some legal aspects of how to handle the case. But generally, our relationship with the security in general is not good. And it should not be like that, because now when something happens, even if it's just a motor accident in Juba, and you pick a camera and you start taking pictures or a video, immediately you'll be arrested. People will arrest you. They will not even ask, first of all, for your ID, that where is your ID, or what are you doing, or what are you doing this for? The first thing is to arrest you. So that kind of relationship is totally not good. Another thing, like market, if you go to market now and you just start filming, like some women who are going to the market, they want to buy this and that, immediately you'll be arrested, So the relationship, this kind of relationship is really not good. It cannot help. And let me tell you something a bit out of this. Recently, last month, we had a South Sudan Uganda business forum in Juba. And one of the businessmen came from Uganda. He said when he reached Juba International Airport, because it was his first time to reach Juba, he immediately took a phone and gave to his colleague and told him to take his picture. So when they took his picture, immediately security came and said, why do you take picture here? And they wanted to take away his phone. He said, no, you're not going to take my phone. Oh, so they had this argument until finally, of course, they gave him his phone. Then he was asking that now, if this is how you are doing things, then how do your journalists work? How do they send information out? This is somebody who came to Juba for the first time. This tells you how bad the situation is. And then also, that is why even the government and the authorities blame us journalists that you don't show people the beauty of South Sudan and so on. How do we show people the beauty of South Sudan when we are not allowed to take pictures? We are not allowed to take videos, You can have a very beautiful thing you want to take, but the permission that you need to get alone to take that picture or video will not even allow you to take it. We have the Nile passing here, very beautiful, people are fishing and so on. But if you go to take it, you will be arrested. You will be arrested. I have a live example. One time, we went to film just river transport, and we had all the authorization. We had the letter from the security. We had even security personnel given to us to go and film. At the end of the day, we were arrested with all plus even the security that were given. So these things, these kinds of things, these kinds of relationship, cannot help the media to grow. This is the challenge we are facing. Every security, whether they are national security, whether they are CIDs, whether they are, police, once something happens and you want to take video or you want to take, immediately everybody takes charge. Nobody is even, we do not know even who is in charge. Whether national security, they will grab you. Whether it is the police, they will arrest you. Whether it is CIDs. So you do not have space really to do the work. And this is a challenge that we're telling authorities that this challenge should really be addressed. So we have a challenge with that. However, the media authority is the body that at least we're relying on now, because even when this case started, is one of the, by the way, I didn't mention them, one of the institutions that we contacted. We'll be very close talking to them, saying this is something that should not have happened, because Ding is a journalist, he was doing our work. If somebody has a complaint against us, should have brought it to media authority. So at least we have hope in media authority because of the responses. Even when you call the MD at night, he will pick your call, you will talk. The only challenge, again, is because they are also a government institution. They're a government institution and they cannot push a lot. There are some protocol that they have to follow. So sometimes when something is at the level of the minister, whereas for us journalists, we just walk in and ask, for them, they cannot, because they have to follow some channels. So those are some of the challenges that really we are facing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brother Patrick Oyet. You have really explained the relationship, which is so volatile and hostile at the same time, between the journalists and the government of South Sudan, and specifically the security apparatus of our country. It's very unfortunate. And you journalists, especially your office, deserve appreciation from the entire citizen of the country. We have really seen that your leadership is doing anything possible to protect its people. And you are the only workforce in our country that is visible, that is well organized. When something happened to one of their members, they always come in a large number to at least to call help from government officials in order for their colleague to be released. Unlike the business union of our republic. And these are the right people to address the issues of hyperinflation and extreme things expensive in the market. It is their role to come out as a business union to talk to the government of South Sudan, talk to the traders, and see how best they can reduce the market prices, at least to meet the need of common citizen. And unfortunately, we are yet to see the work of business community in our country. Mr. Patrick, you said once you go for your duties of to execute your duties as a journalist, you will find yourself being harassed by police, CID, national security, MI, anybody, including the army. Are you telling us that there is no proper role demarcations that guide our security apparatus in South Sudan? Or what is the confusion there? Thank you.
Yeah, there could be some proper role that is given, but on paper it is there, but practically it is not working. Even the case of Ding, when she was arrested, according to what she narrated, men in plain clothes just came and arrested her. You know, nobody will introduce themselves to you to say, I am so and so, I am an officer of the national security, or I'm an officer of the police, and could you identify yourself and tell me this video you're taking, or the picture you're taking, or the interview you're doing is for what? There is no such diplomacy in most cases. Somebody will just come to you and say, hey, can you enter the car? Or, you know, who are you? Why are you doing this? You know, and when you ask, even you, because some of them wear plain uniform, I mean, they wear civilian clothes, they're not in military or police, or, hey, can you identify yourself also? Who are you who is asking me this question? Immediately you are in problem. Why are you asking me? You want to know who I am? You know, so this kind of relationship is not professional, is not good, because as an officer, you should introduce yourself to whoever you find that, okay, especially when you're not in uniform. I am so and so, I'm an officer, and maybe I'm in charge of this. So I want to know what you're doing or who you are, and so on. And if I explain to you what I'm doing, everything should be okay. But this is not the case in most cases. There's a lot of use of force. There's a lot of, you know, no introduction, and things just escalate like that. Sometimes what you're doing is even actually supporting the government, but nobody wants to even listen, you know. So that is the challenge. That is the challenge. Anybody arrest anybody. So that is really a problem for us. Yeah.
Thank you, President Oyet Patrick. Yeah, we have one of the question from the viewers that is it illegal in South Sudan Constitution for citizens to protest against high prices of goods in the market? Generally, the question is talking about the right of citizens to protest, or the Constitution prohibited them not to protest in case of anything that they want to voice their opinions to the current government.
The Constitution actually guarantees protest. It gives freedom to protest, peaceful, especially peaceful protest. The Constitution accepts lawful assembly, like assembly of people who want to gather and have maybe a meeting or protest. This is guaranteed by the Constitution. We also asked the same question to the police spokesperson, and his answer to us was that yes, the Constitution provides for that, but if you want to protest, you should write a letter to the police and telling police your protest plan, you're going to move from where to where, and how many people, for example, you expect, when the protest will take place, and so on, so that you make the police aware, and the police can also help you in guiding the protest, so that it doesn't become violent, it doesn't become something that can end up, you know, breaking into people's shops and things like that. This was the answer that the police gave us when we asked this question. We have also seen in the past some protests in this country, like, for example, I remember when arms embargo was levied against the country, there were people protested. They were against the arms embargo. Even when some politicians were sanctioned, there were people who protested, and they were guarded by the police. But to us, what we are seeing is that when the protest is favoring the government, like supporting a position of the government, then it is easily granted. But when it is not favoring the government, for example, people are questioning for the prices, for the government to take action so that the price can come down, it is going to be very difficult in our analysis of the situation for such a letter to be, or a protest to be granted, for you to go and demonstrate that we want prices to come down. I suspect that is why those who went and did the protest just decided to go on their own and protest. But it is still also within their right to protest. In the Constitution, it is not explained that if you want to protest, you must have a letter. Maybe in other laws, yes, but in the Constitution, it's just you have the right to protest, you have the right to assemble. Yeah.
Thank you, President Patrick Oyet. Our constitution is clear to some extent, but the challenge is what you mentioned before, that there are some beautiful documents in our country, but when it comes to implementation of what the document said, That is where the problem is. There could be possible spell out duties of national security, police, CID, and MI, the army, the tiger. But when they are confronted their duties, you'll find them contradicting themselves to what is in the documents. The same thing applies to our constitution, especially chapter 2, gave each and every citizen a right to protest, right to association, right to assembly. But when you exercise what is in the constitution, you become victims of those who have not even read what the constitution said. And that is where our problem is. Yeah, Mr. Patrick, we will beg your opinions. There is incident that took place on 7th of this month in Mayom County, Unity State. Extrajudicial killing of prisoners of war. And somebody went ahead to record it. 2 clips. The one of 2 being fired squad, and another clip of somebody being tied up and burned alive to death. That person, his identity is not yet known. And the conversation around that person is that the person was executed and shot dead by the state authorities simply because he or she has revealed what they were intended to do in darkness. And others were saying the fella is one of the journalists. And others were saying it is not a journalist, it's one of the soldiers. Kindly, if you have clear information in regard to this incident, can you let the public know as the president of the unions of journalists in South Sudan? Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I do not have clear information on that issue. But what I can confirm is that at least as a union of journalists, we have not received any information that any journalist got, for example, killed. At least in Unity State, I can confidently say we know almost all the journalists. So at least the person who filmed that extrajudicial killing and brought it out was not a journalist. Perhaps the version that was one of the soldiers is the correct one, at least not a journalist, not in our record. In regard to that killing, it has been condemned by the South Sudan People's Defense Forces. It has been condemned by the Minister for Defense, and it has also been condemned by South Sudan Bar Association, who just released a statement today condemning that act. I think it is a very high level of violation of the law because the law of war is clear and it binds everybody. That prisoners of war are not supposed to be killed. They're supposed to be taken care of. They're supposed to be treated with decency. And if the war is over, because every war comes to an end, if it is over, you return the prisoners of war to their masters. So that was really a violation of the law. And it's good to hear that this condemnation is coming. I saw the one of the Bar Association today. It was in one of the newspapers. The Minister for Defense said the same. The military, the South Sudan People's Defense Forces said they are going to follow up the case and they will bring those who have committed that crime to book. And I think that is the right way to go, because if soldiers can do that to their colleagues, what will happen to us, the civilians? What will they do to us? So it is something that is disturbing. It does not promote the rule of law. It does not promote the freedom that we are talking about. So it is proper for the authorities to handle this case to show the rest of the people and to deter more of such things happening in the future. Also, the judicial system, these legal processes should improve, because we have some states that are supposed to have high courts, but they don't have high courts. For example, Bentiu itself, Unity State, there is no high court. The court which is there is supposed to be a mobile court, meaning if there are cases there, then the court has to travel from Juba to there to go and try these cases and so forth. And these kind of things, sometimes, like I can tell you also with confidence that for 2 years now, the High Court has not gone to Bentiu. The same goes to the military court-martial. The court-martial also seems to be having some issues here and there. And that's why some soldiers behave the way they behave, because there's a bit of impunity. They think that even if they do something, they will not be tried. So I think it is important for the government to move and to set these systems in place. For example, the court-martials are normally soldiers, so soldiers are everywhere. So the court-martial should be set up so that the rule of law is promoted. These things are there in our constitution, and it is the duty of every citizen. Some people will say, you're a journalist, why are you talking about the rule of law? But it is in our constitution, and every citizen is duty bound to promote. If the constitution says the rule of law, everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty, and you have not tried anybody in a court, and you are just killing the person, then what are you promoting? You are promoting lawlessness. And this person, they know themselves. They mention people by names, and his relatives are there seeing that, oh, he's so and so was. So you are promoting chaos. So it's good for the government to move and take action so that the rest can learn from it, and the country promotes the rule of law. Yeah.
Thank you, Oyet Patrick. Actually, you are the right person to talk about rule of law in the country, simply because being the journalist is one of the diverse course or career. It covers everywhere. And what a journalist sees is something beyond other career visualizing it or to see it, because you always meet things that are happening on really life, on daily basis. And you have said it clearly, the judiciary, somebody was asking that, do we even have 3 arms of government that are being taught to our children in high school and in primaries? Do we even have them? And then the answer is yes, we have them. We have 3 arms of government. But where are the 2 arms? But there is only 1 arm that is functioning across, and that is executive. And the powers that executive have as overshadow other 2 arms of government, the judiciary and the parliaments. So it's very hard, and that creates a vacuum whereby anybody can think to do anything he likes, simply because there is no proper coordination from the top leadership to the grassroots. And if that coordination is broken, then you can do anything that you feel like. As a journalist, and your colleagues are covering all the events in the country, you have a lot to tell us, Patrick Oyet. One of the journalists who covers the judicial killing or execution of Congolese president, the first prime minister, Patrick Lumumba. That journalist was too executed, and he said only one thing. He said, even if I die, and the information has already gone to the public domain, then I will die as a peaceful man, that I've done my part, and the public will be there to judge for the next generations to come. And as the journalists now in our country, environment is hostile. Do you think the government is operating under secrecy, that there are some events that it does not like journalists to come and cover? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It is a fact that some events the government does not want journalists to cover. This is not a secret. We've seen a number of times. For example, when we talk of civic space, to give opportunity to everybody to be listened to talk, and I think this helps even the government. And the moment you have, like in our case, we have opposition political parties. When they speak, of course, they will criticize the government, but you will also know what they're thinking. You will know what they're saying outside there. The moment you block them from talking, they still have other means, social media and so on. The information will still go out, and sometimes the information, you may miss the information. So it's important for the government to give opportunity for dissenting voices also to be heard. But for us, particularly as journalists, even for us as journalists, we do not just want to tell story from one side, that the government has said this, the government. But what about the other people who are not saying what the government is saying? Their voices need to be heard. So it is not a secret that the government does not want other people sometimes to talk. For example, when a group of opposition political parties called for a press conference in parliament and journalists went, the journalists were arrested. These people were not even allowed to say what they wanted to say. So that's a clear indication that some people are not allowed to talk sometimes. Another thing, when again the opposition group, especially IO, SPLM-IO, moved out of parliament because of disagreement they had. When journalists also went to cover this event, some of them were arrested. They were detained for some time. One of them, his recording was deleted. There was a time also there was a protest, especially when there was conflict in Lair, and mostly resident or inhabitants, original inhabitants of Lair were in Juba, were protesting, and they were asking government to do something to arrest the situation. Also, journalists who are covering this were arrested. Sometimes when other opposition groups call for press conferences or they want to talk to the media, when the journalists go to cover, they are turned away by the security. They say, no, there's nothing happening here, just go back. So those things happen. So it is clear that sometimes the government does not want other people to talk, to be listened to, especially the opposition. But for us as journalists, we are open to covering anything that happens. The same applies to this case of Ding, where she went to cover, of course, the protests, and she became one of the people who were arrested. So it shows that really there are some things that the government think that should be covered. But for us as journalists, we are trained to cover everything. Unfortunately, we are trained to cover everything. And it is that which informs the public of what is happening. When you only listen to a story from one side, it normally doesn't give you everything. And that's what we want to do to the public. We want the public to get all sides of the story. And also it diffuses tension, because at times when you have everybody talking in a story or in a documentary or whatever you're doing, then even the other person who was not happy will feel that, no, also my point of view has been taken care of, and therefore I don't need to take more actions. So I think the government should encourage more talking. The government should encourage more free media, free press, and this will help. Even to talk to some experts, to talk to some church, religious leaders, to bring also their voices in the story. You know what is happening now is that is actually in most, I think you are in a better position to say this, that in most countries now, the media is moving away from listening to the government to listening to the voices of the people. People now want the media to be used to listen to the problems that the communities, the people are facing, so that they can react by resolving the problem. So the media should not just be, something that is used only to get information from the government and send to the people. It should be to get information from the people, from the grassroots. What are the people saying? What are others saying? What are other positions saying? And then even you use that information to deliver services. You use that information to improve the governance in the country. So I think that is how it should be. But unfortunately, we still have a situation where we are not being blocked from covering certain things because, they have not even known what the other side is going to say. Sometimes they're even saying something that can help the country, can help the incumbent government, but they don't want to listen. They just say, no, it's not allowed to cover. So that's still a challenge. It's still a big challenge.
Indeed, Patrick, is the challenge that if a government turn out not to listen to the voices or different thoughts from the citizens and even the opposition, is very unfortunate, and such government is actually deemed to fail, because sometimes criticism better us. It make you a great person. Once you receive them in totality, analyze them, and do what is ought to be done in order not to be criticized tomorrow for doing the same thing. Thereafter, you'll improve one by one. I don't know, Patrick, recently, especially at the beginning of this year, there were a bit light or window of freedom of express. And it was evident when President gave the national address, journalists went in and he was questioned. For the first time, he was questioned. Another incident was the incident of Stephen, the law firm in UK who conducted what the term as resetting the button of South Sudan. So that person went, and they were together with the press secretary of the president, and journalists were inside. And after their press, they questioned them. These two events gave hope to the media fraternity that maybe this is the genesis and this is the beginning of new freedom of journalists. You can ask any question that you want to ask from government officials. But since the declaration of roadmap in Freedom Hall, or 1 month before roadmap, things started turning ugly. That is where the IO MPs boycott parliaments. Even now, they are yet to return to the parliaments. And no journalist has ever talked about that. That is where the protesters went to the street and they were arrested, including your colleague. That's where the extrajudicial killing happened in Mayom. The one of the dirty ever. And the sad part of it is that this incident of Mayom has not only tarnished the name of Nuer community, it has also tarnished the name of South Sudan People's Defense Forces. It has also tarnished the name of the current leadership under President Salva Kiir. And the worst one is the image of the country, South Sudan. Across the globe, we are a bad society. Not now, and it will remain in the record for the next years that we will exist before the God decided to change the world. So what can you say as the president of journalists? Is it because the roadmap has actually made government to be more secretive and brutal and harsh on citizens? Or is it because there is something that they are protecting from citizens not to get it through journalists? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I am seeing our time has also gone. I should not be the one saying, but okay. You know, as you said, we had a lot of hope when those events happened, especially on the freedom of expression. I was there in that press conference where the president could be asked, actually, were given a chance to ask. And those who wanted to ask questions were very hopeful, were happy. Things started depreciating, as you correctly said, when there was this disagreement between the SPLMIO and IG. And not only that, some events followed, as you said, the roadmap. The roadmap itself is not a bad thing. I think it was clear to many South Sudanese people that the remaining part of the agreement could not be finished within the remaining months. So the roadmap is not something bad. But where the government made the roadmap to look something bad, which even made Troika to first of all reject it, was because it was never transparent. What they were doing was not transparent. There was no transparency. And by transparency, it does not mean, that you bring everybody in the room, but at least consult different groups. I think that's where the problem was. There was this hiding of everything. People should not know what was in the roadmap. Instead of calling the civil societies, meeting with them alone, and saying, civil societies, time has come for us to end the transition in February 2023. We feel that these months are not enough to carry out election, to finish graduation of forces, and so on. If we are to extend the transitional period, what do you want to see in it? Then civil societies will say, I want A, B, C, D. They say, okay, we'll give you 1 week to come with your position. Then you consult women. Then you consult the lawyers, the bar association. Then you consult the other, even opposition groups, and so forth, faith-based groups. Time has come. Time is coming to an end. What do you think we should do? How long should we extend this thing? And then after incorporating all these things, you come up with one document that is acceptable to everybody. But time came when talking about this thing alone was almost not acceptable. When people say, they say, no, what people are talking about is rumors, is not correct, is not true, we have not extended, we have not. So this kind of thing is the one that has made people to somehow lose support, or made the government to lose support for the extension of the transitional period, if you had some voices talking against it. But humanly, it is not possible to finish everything that has remained, including election, within the remaining months. So I think there's something that perhaps the government has already learned from it, that next time, when the consultation is okay, this document is about the people. It's not about those who are in power. It's about the people. It's about services to the people. So the more consulted, the more they see their views in it, the better it will be, and the more it will be accepted. And also, we have seen something. We've seen something that these political parties disagree. They disagree when, for example, in parliament, political parties bill and so on and so on. But when it comes to issues of power, when it comes to issues of staying in power, they are united. They are united. So that tells us also something that, they want to stay in power. So I think that is something we've also learned. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brother Patrick Oyet. We have 1 minute left for our interview to end. And you have mentioned it clearly. The roadmap was a common interest to our leadership. Start away from the top leadership up to commissioner at our counties level, including the boomers at the villages. And your interest, you have to support, because you have no option that your interests have been brought on desk. I don't know now whether we have some questions from viewers. And if we don't have questions from the viewers, then I will be happy to give you this 1 minute to give us your last parting shot and your message to the government of South Sudan, message to the people of South Sudan. Thereafter, we'll end our interview. Thank you so much, President.
Thank you, thank you. My message is one, the government should actually allow the media to do their work freely. It is through this free media that we will make the country much better. We will inform the people. It will even dispel these rumors, these things that are in social media, some are not correct, will all become clear to the public when the media is free to do its work. I will give one example, like the Kenyan election. We are not in Kenya, we are in South Sudan, but we are following we've been following this election throughout, even during the campaign. We are following through the media because the media has been given free access to do their work. And if the media was blocked, you can imagine, how many people would miss out on this information. And yet it is very, very important for everybody in the region because of many goods that come through the ocean and then to all of us, even in South Sudan here. So a free media will really help the country, even to make sure that these conflicts that are in the states sometimes and so on are not even going to be there. So we believe that the free media is important. The government should support this, should give journalists freedom to do their work. And to the people of South Sudan, let us keep having hope. For us as journalists, we are ready to do our work, to bring you information that I am happy through all platforms, like the Lake State media is on social media. For us, some of us are on conventional media. So you have all the platforms to get accurate information, and you should use them. That is what I can say.
Thank you so much, President Patrick Oyet of the Union of Journalists South Sudan. Thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of Lake State Media and on behalf of the crew members, we really appreciate and acknowledge your commitment and your contribution. Keep it up. Time will come. And remember, Africans don't appreciate you when you are alive or when you are in power. But when you exit the position that you are holding and another person comes in with a different policies, then they will miss you. The journalists in South Sudan will appreciate you now, and they will miss you by the time your term will come to an end. Keep doing that, and the public is watching. You, the journalists, are the eyes of the citizen, and you are the voice of the voiceless. You always bring to the death the reality on the ground, and social media is interrupting the ethics and norms of journalism. Social media always give us information that are filtered, sometimes being manipulated by self-interest, and leads to suit well in the public. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we will always call you to come and talk to South Sudanese. And our only request is, if you can find us two journalists who are always on the front line, we'll like it to ask them, and we'll be glad to hear from them. What are the challenges that they are facing, that they need support from the public to support your office and your colleague. Thank you so much. May God bless your leadership. And to our viewers, thank you so much for being there always. Let's keep talking. A society that always keep talking is a society that finds solution to its problems. We are in problems and we are seeking for the solution to address our issues. May God bless you, Brother Oyet Patrick, the President of Union of Journalists in South Sudan. And to our viewers, may God bless each and every one of you. May God bless South Sudan, and may God bless Africa. Thank you so much.
It's your boy Young Love, Ajib Entertainment. Pancho legacy, the Panchi America. Panji Dwal, Pancho legacy, the Panchi America. Panji Dwal, Ban walk on the lake, Kankara water no watching. Oga level lake, Gear, Pow, Lake, Panda with Yay, Panchi America. Panya Dwal, Van, Chingatonga Pandon, could you ever buy a check out? Papu Panda Jiro, what they be Dwal venting. Panchir America, Panjije Dwal, Banaban Pantaleg State, Panchir America, Panjije Dwal, Banaban Wokojile, Kankaru Watana Watchin, Oga Level Gear, Wow, Leg, Panda Wadiaye, Panchir America, Panya Dwalamano, Chingatongo Pandon Kujura by a check out, Wakupanda Giro, Wadiabi, Dwalamenting.